Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Garbage Horror Out of the Can, our next to last-ish of the Haunt Review series.
Yeah.
Officially our next to last. Big surprise coming up next week for Out of the Can. But this week we're visiting the New Orleans staple crop haunted attraction, if you will. The House of House of Shock.
Yeah.
I can't motion at your chest. It doesn't matter.
Anyway.
Long story short, this is the best known attraction in the New Orleans metropolitan area. Everyone who is a haunt fan knows this place, has gone there, has seen it, has done it.
It's been around a lot longer than some of the other places.
It'll be celebrating its 20th year, and there's a lot of history to House of Shock. Let's be very clear. They started out as a backyard haunt.
Right.
First 2 years, operated as a backyard haunt, went pro in 1994, I think it was. It was either 93, 94. They went pro and have been going every year since. They skipped 2005 due to damage of Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
But other than that, have been a New Orleans staple ever since, and they've been very controversial in the past.
Yeah.
It's safe to say that they've drawn a lot of attention for their faux satanic theme and imagery.
Yeah, they're more of a shocking against religious sensibilities than shocking as in, oh my god, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the direction they head with the haunted attraction. It's less about scaring people and more about attacking sensibilities, offending people.
Right.
Sort of, hitting on those personal values. They use a lot of satanic imagery. They use a lot of aborted fetuses. Very disturbing things, at least in the clinical sense, but maybe not particularly shocking or scary per se.
Right. This is one of the bigger haunts that I know of that you go to, and this is one of the things that bugs us about it usually. As usually we go during the season, not after like we did this year.
Yeah. And
we are in a cattle line, basically, all throughout. And when you're in that situation, you never feel like you're alone. No. And it's hard to scare someone if you don't feel like you're alone.
Well, we have to backtrack here, because what happens with House of Shock is everyone piles into this giant, you would say, field.
Right.
With separated by guardrails.
For a stage show.
And you watch a 5-minute stage unless you show up on the 4th. And you don't get the stage show because you missed it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to that. I'm coming back to that. But anyways, you hang out in this stage show area. You watch this big pyrotechnic show. Very loud, boom, hot. It's a very amazing show. And it hasn't changed much since the time we've been going, but it's always an exciting show. And then you kind of get led. The entire field gets led as one giant line, like a conga line we've called it in the past. And you just sort of roam through the haunt that way, always having 20 people in front of you. The one year that didn't happen was the year we were in front with Eddie and them. And we, of course, we just had Eddie and a few of our friends in front of us.
Right, and Eddie, for the record, is a guy who ran Chamber of Horrors, which was out in Laplace, but closed this year. Yeah,
closed for this year. They should be back next, according to at least some reports.
Yeah.
So we'll do the haunt review on them next year, promise.
Yeah.
But anyway, but unless you're in the very front of the line, you don't get that feeling. And really, even when you are in the front of the line, you don't get that feeling. Because there's approximately 500 to 1,000 people right on you. In fact, you feel that pressure to go forward even more because there's so many people waiting behind you.
Well, not only that, but I thought that this time, coming on the 4th, there wasn't as much of a line.
Yeah.
They actually were talking about the lack of a line.
Yeah.
Some of the people that worked there. And I thought that maybe they would let us in a few at a time and then we could explore and that would be better, but that didn't happen.
That's one of the things they talk about on their site is how they call it an interactive haunted attraction.
Right.
And how you're supposed to explore and find your own way out. But really, it's no different than every other haunted house we've been to this year. Even Terror Test was largely like that.
Right.
I mean, I can't recall the last time I've been to a haunted attraction where I felt like I was roped off safely from the haunted stuff. I think that the last time that happened to me was in the Tri-County Fair in Berkeley County, South Carolina in 1994.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
You're dating yourself nicely.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'm aging quite well. Now, I guess my problem with the House of Shock, and we were talking about this beforehand, is this is a haunt that is sort of... Well, let's understand where this is coming from first. Let's backtrack.
Right.
We like these guys.
Yes.
We've talked
Very
with
nice guys.
We've talked with the owners. They talk on their side about how they're the black sheep of the haunt community. They're not. They're great members of the haunt community. They're absolutely awesome. In fact, just today there were haunters from Wisconsin, I believe it was,
Right.
coming in and seeing the show. They're great members of the haunt community locally, great members nationally and internationally. Wonderful people. Cannot say a bad thing about the people. Can't say anything bad about the actors. Can't say anything bad about most of the haunt.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I always get the feeling it's a haunt that's resting on its laurels.
Mm-hmm.
It was, at a time in its existence, very controversial.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the archives, you go back to the late 90s, early 2000s, especially the mid to late 90s, there were a lot of Christian protesters. There were a lot of serious attempts to shut it down for its themes. And there was a lot, I would say, there were a lot of attempts to outright censor it.
Yes, there were.
And it fought back, and it won, and it deserves all the credit in the world. But all of that was 10 years ago or more.
Right.
And let's just face it, the stuff that they do now isn't that shocking anymore. I mean, maybe a lot of it's because, you know, they were hitting the hot button issues from the 90s and early 2000s. In the post 9/11 world, especially, it's just not what gets under people's skin or terrifies us anymore.
No, and it's not what's offensive.
No, I mean, a good example of the problem is, first time we went in 2003, I remember everyone in line being terrified of going in.
Yeah, it was
in fact,
quite funny.
The two girls in front of us literally had their arms like this, and they had a belt they wrapped around their arm, so they had to be side by side, and they couldn't separate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a great way to dislocate your shoulder, actually.
Yeah,
I mean, you and I, being new to New Orleans, we were like the calmest people there.
Right.
And they had a great haunt. Don't get me wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But, you know, you get in line now, people aren't as scared. I mean, the people who are scared would be just as scared at 13th Gate. They would be just as scared anywhere they went. It's nothing. There's just nothing special about the House of Shock. And the reason is, all the stuff they do that made them special at one point, everyone else does. And so, yeah, they were trendsetters. They were groundbreakers in many ways. Groundbreaker. But they were definitely trendsetters, but they're not at the head of the pack now. They've been surpassed by a lot of other haunts, including other haunts in the area.
Yeah, I mean, they've worked some on building up their set design, which is nice. In most cases, it works. There's one area.
Oh yeah, the Technicolor puke room.
Yeah, it's in the middle, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
it throws you completely out of the scene.
They've got a room in the middle of this haunt that they've done different things with, and it's just never worked. Maybe it's such an oddly shaped room.
It's kind of like a U-turn.
It's kind of like a weird, like, S-turn, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of goes both ways with the turn. But maybe it's the shape of the room. Maybe it's the location of it. They've done something different with that room almost every year, and it's always sucked. And this year was probably the weakest I've seen, because they flooded it with black light, those big, huge black lights, and they had this foam that glowed in it, and they splattered it all over all the things. And it just looked like, you know, someone threw up glow sticks all over the room. And it wasn't scary. It was very nauseating. It was very annoying. And it didn't fit with anything else in the haunt. The rest of the haunt goes for this hyper-realistic, hyper-accurate look where you can real wood, touch everything, actual desks, very immersive. And this one just snaps you out of it. It's like...
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an example of the problem. And the real issue I have, though, is they have, other than that, what was different this year from last year?
Nothing.
Nothing. And the one thing that was different didn't work. They added the hell scenes in 2010. Those are alright, but they weren't a major change. And in fact, I would have completely not known they were new if I hadn't looked this up on Wikipedia.
Well, not only that, but our friend who works in our little haunt told us about it. Told us to look for it.
Yeah, and it was all cool stuff, but once again, it was a very brief in and out section. And it's a $25 haunt. We timed it at 19 minutes 30 seconds, so that buck a minute rule we talked about falls a little bit short. Not as significantly short as the terror test, but still a little bit shorter than I would have liked. I mean, if it had gotten an extra couple of minutes out of it, probably would have felt more comfortable with it.
Right. Well, this is also the slowest I think we've ever been through the haunt.
True.
We've actually had time to look at everything. And
that's true. We did move a lot slower this year. Well, previously we've done it in like 16, 17 minutes without any real rushing. So recommendations with this haunt.
If you haven't been,
go.
You know,
you need to go.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this is the deal. The House of Shock is a great haunted house. There's no two ways about this. The set design, impeccable.
Yeah.
The graveyard, the church that you go into, I'm sorry, the mortuary area you go into,
Right.
the Bourbon Street area, everything is the set design,
awesome.
other than the puke room.
Yeah.
Everything is awesome in this haunt. Everything is impeccably detailed, beautifully
The
done.
makeup's great.
The actors are awesome. They really they harp on their actors on the site. Good reason. They're great actors. Everything in that haunt is great. If you haven't been, I will drive you.
Yeah.
I will take you. It's not a problem. You need to go. But if you've been any time in the last 5, 6 years or so, unless you really want the same experience and want to pay $25 for it, I'm sorry. It's just not different enough. It's like I said, that they rest too much on their laurels. They've built up that reputation, and it's no longer, I think, an earned one. It's still a good haunt, but it's not what the House of Shock was at one point.
Right. I mean, the last few years, I haven't heard many screams coming from the line.
Exactly.
The first year, there were lots of screams coming from the line, in front of and behind us. The last few years, there just haven't been that many.
And one thing that does bug me, and we've talked about this with each other and with others about the House of Shock, is the no touch rule.
Yeah.
Let's touch on this a minute because it bothers me. Officially, on the House of Shock site and the little things they give you, and then the rules that you pass as you go on in, it says, "Don't touch us, we won't touch you."
Right.
That is a stock and trade rule in the haunt industry. Virtually our haunt has it.
Yeah.
Virtually every haunt has it. And for damned good reason. Because you don't want no sexual harassment bullshit. You don't want military guys having flashbacks and punching a guy in the jugular or anything like that. You don't want problems.
Right.
So they say that, but then you get in there and the actors get very touchy-feely. I understand accidental brushing. I understand a lot of touching. But this is intentional grabbing.
Yeah.
And like this time I had my hair pulled.
Yeah.
Actually, and
I had my head touched at least 6 times, and I had a guy hold a knife to my throat.
And my problem with all this is, if you set the rule, your actors and your patrons have to stick to it. And I mean, that you watch the videos on their site, they talk about, oh yeah, well officially we don't touch you, but it happens like it's a joke. No, it's a safety issue. It is for everyone's safety that rule is in place. It is not a joke, House of Shock. I'm sorry. Either say up front, people will be touching and grabbing you, or don't do it. One or the other. And the other gripe I have this year, I didn't get to see the stage show.
You said you'd get back to that.
I did, and I promised I'm keeping my promise. This annoyed me. Admittedly, we went on the 4th. We went after Halloween, so the season's technically kind of over, and they had an incredibly slow night. My sympathy goes out to them. But I showed up an hour before the official time to close was, got in, they were letting people into the haunt. I asked them, well, can we see the stage show? I said, oh, well, there isn't going to be one. You just missed it. Well, we just got here. Either let us know at the ticket booth that we just missed the only stage show of the night, so we can make the decision if it's still worth the $25 a head, or, you know, put on the stage show. Because that, to me, is a big part of the House of Shock. Now, we'll probably go tomorrow. You can actually see the stage show for free, so we're probably going to go back and catch it. But still, that's annoying. I'm sorry. Those are my 2 big grievances with the House of Shock right there. Everything else about it, impeccable. Just a bit stagnant. VIP recommendations. Never. We've been making an effort with all these reviews to tell you whether or not you should buy VIP. Never. There is no situation in which buying a VIP pass at the House of Shock is worth the ball unless you look at the bag of goodies that comes with it and go, I have to have that. Because if the bag of goodies don't justify the extra $25, don't get the VIP. The reason is simple. It's a ripoff. It's a waste. The reason is because all it does is get you to the front row of the stage show. Whoopie-doo.
You might lose your eyebrows.
You might lose your eyebrows on the pyrotechnics. That's kind of cool. We went VIP the last few years because they always put other haunters through the VIP line. So we got to see the VIP show. It's no different. And in fact, you actually kind of miss a little bit, because if you get the VIP late, you might be on the back side of the L, which can put you as many rows back as, the line is deep. So if there's a lot of VIP, you're actually getting a worse view than the people who paid regular price. And the way the line is done, all that does is put you toward the front of the conga line. You're going to get in at the exact same time as everyone else because of the stage show. There's no benefit. You don't get in any earlier, you don't save any time, and you don't get a better stage show. In fact, you risk getting a much worse one. I summarized the VIP situation well?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Think that's it for House of Shock this year?
I think so.
Well, that's our recommendations on House of Shock. I'm pretty sure, unless I hear something drastic, they're going to stand for 2012 too. I know we're doing this one at the very end of the season, but I'm pretty sure, like I said, given the track record in the last 6 years or so, it's going to stand up pretty well in a year. So on that note, everyone, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And please forgive her. She's got a bit of a cold. This was Garbage Horror out of the can, and she's only quiet because of the cold.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for patience.